Yeah, well, trying to disrupt relationships with China, Russia, Iran, um, that goes beyond CIA. That article, it's really it's sort of a stupid article because it's
Well, it's CNN. I mean,
yeah. Well, number one, CIA personnel overseas, they're undercover. They're not walking around saying, "Hi, I work with CIA." That's not how that works. Okay, they work as they're undercover, usually as a State Department officer or as someone is aligned with the Department of Defense. So the only time somebody may be openly declared as a CIA official will be the chief of station, and that only happens in certain countries. It's not universal. So that's number one. The other thing that the agency would do would be put in what are called non-official cover officers. So these will be people who are they're actual CIA employees, but when you look on it, they appear to work for some private organization or private company, maybe a publicly traded company. So it gets back to saying, what is the purpose? What is the United States trying to do? You're not going to take a CIA officer and go in and sit it down in front. Hi, I'm with the CIA, and I'm going to tell you what to do. Delciga Rodriguez, as an example. So I'm not sure what the United States is doing diplomatically and doing from a standpoint of establishing a presence. Have they reopened the embassy full blast, or are they issuing visas now to the United States out of Venezuela? So a lot of questions that go into this, but it's true that they're going to try to turn the Venezuelan policy away from China, Russia, and Iran. But I think ultimately that's going to fail. But we'll see, because the ability of the United States to actually influence and control events in Venezuela is very limited, despite the success we had in buying off 3 members of Maduro's security team and getting them to the place where they gave up Maduro in exchange for hoping they'd get paid $50 million, which so far they haven't.
Yeah, I was going to ask you for an update on that. So, no 50 grand yet?
Not yet. They got hosed.
They would have done better betting on the, what's it called, the betting system that you have there. Oh my God, I forgot the name. The betting system that some employee of the Marines recently won. Well, he won like $400K by betting that they would kidnap Maduro. Well,
yeah. He had inside knowledge.
Okay. So I would like to move a little bit to Russia now.
Yeah.
Not Kiev, because Kiev it's on fire. Let's talk about Russia. But yeah, about Kiev. One thing that caught my attention, I was doing a live stream yesterday about the strikes on Kiev, which were huge strikes, and I would like your opinion on that as well. But I was, going on Twitter and checking all the leaders, Ursula von der Leyen and all those super important people here in Europe. And all of them condemning the attack and saying that Russia is using terrorists against civilians, and all the things that we are used to say. But then I went to Truth Social, and there is not one word from Trump, not even one. How do you read these, Larry?
Well, I mean, which part? I'm not.
Trump has not even made a note.
Trump's lack of reaction to the missile strikes in Kiev. Is that what you're asking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the Russians have sent a message to Trump via Sergei Lavrov to Marco Rubio yesterday, a continuation of a message that was first enunciated by Ambassador Dmitry Polyansky more than 2 weeks ago when he appeared on Danny Davis's show. And it was followed up by the Deputy Foreign Minister, Sergei Rybkov, warning that Europe now was going to be a target of Russian attacks, that these drone attacks on civilian structures inside Russia have now crossed the line. Russia's taking the gloves off. And when Lavrov told Rubio yesterday or day before yesterday, get your personnel out of Kyiv because we're going to hit it, and we're going to hit it hard. And what it really was warning you, not telling the United States to clear out its embassy, but actually to get U.S. personnel, CIA personnel out who are embedded with Ukrainian intelligence or Ukrainian military units, Ukrainian military leadership, intelligence cells. Get all your U.S. personnel out because we're going to hit those sites, and we're going. And you know, if you're there, your personnel are going to be killed. That's the message.
Yeah, it's when I saw this, the first thing. So one thing that came to my mind was that Zelensky, one day prior to the attack, he actually tweeted that, we have intelligence telling us that Russia is about to use an Oreshnik in Kiev, and then it happened. But at the same time, a week or two before, we had this announcement on the 9th May parade, the Victory Day parade. Right. We had this announcement. Yeah, if you try to do some stupid stuff, we're going to hit you hard. So I believe that one.
It's beyond that. Russia is now going, even though Ukraine hasn't hit the Kremlin, Russia now is going to take out all of the military infrastructure in Kiev.
Yeah, exactly.
Military and intelligence structures.
Exactly, and which was fun is that we have two articles on Kiev Independent and also on that Ukrainska Pravda, talking about that only two civilians died on this huge attack. Mm-hmm. So I guess if Russia is trying to be a terrorist state, it's doing a very poor job. It's really hitting infrastructure.
I mean, they've made a point about it, trying to avoid casualties. They're not trying to see how many Ukrainians they can kill, but they are going to destroy the Ukrainian infrastructure. That's for sure.
Yeah. Another thing that happened, and it happened 2 days ago, in 13th May, there was a voting on the Duma, and I don't know if you read about this. There was a voting Duma for passing a law that gives the president of Russia the power to invade countries in case Russian personnel get persecuted.
Yeah,
on those countries. And the West is kind of flipping out, but it's the same as the U.S. law that kind of gives power to the president to invade The Hague if someone gets processed there. But I find interesting timing, Larry, because we have the Baltics going, crazy. And what came to my mind, if by chance they would have had some information that personnel like as you mentioned, Dmitry Polyansky, that works abroad, and other Russian diplomats that work abroad could have been targeted for this kind of persecution, and they decided to pass this law. What do you think about this, Larry?
Well, I'm not sure. Ask it again, because I don't understand.
So, okay, they passed this law, and Putin just signed it a couple of days ago, the day before yesterday, that gives the power to the president of Russia to invade a country, to use military force. If Russian personnel, I would assume that in the readings of the text is actually defining, diplomats and military personnel, more or less like the Hague Act, as they call in the human rights, as the United States. Do you think that they are doing this to prevent uh, possible persecution of people like, for example, Dmitry Polyansky, that is a Russian diplomat, or even Lavrov, that has to travel a lot, and they are perhaps seeing risks of these people starting to being persecuted abroad?
No, actually, again, I think this is a continuation of the shifting in Russia policy. Some have complained, like, why didn't Russia do these kinds of strikes sooner that they did the other day in Kyiv? And I believe one reason is that in the past, they wanted to avoid targeting places where there were U.S. government personnel, CIA, military, or Western European personnel, because Russia at the time calculated we're not ready to go to war with NATO. We don't have the industrial output. We don't have the manpower reserves. We don't have enough reserves and critical weapon systems. That picture's now changed. They have all of that, and I think that is one of the reasons you're starting to see this more, let's call it more aggressive legislation, expansion of power for Putin, as well as the increased warnings to the West that Russia is now ready to confront the West and believes that if there is such a confrontation, it will prevail. And if nothing else, the events of the last 4 years with U.S. support for Ukraine, now further exposed with what's happened in the Red Sea last June, or last March, April, May, and then what's now happened in the war with Iran, exposed the weaknesses and limitations of U.S. military force.
Yes, and that was an excellently put argument, because this is one thing that I've been saying for a long time, and we discussed this several times. I mean, one thing that Gonzalo Lira used to say is that you go to war with what you have.
Yeah.
And I always believe that the major, untold objective of the SMO, or whatever is going to turn out, it's to actually demilitarize NATO, not Ukraine, not Europe, but NATO. And with recently events in Iran, we discussed this a couple of weeks ago. The United States kind of scrapping the barrel. It's low on weapons and has no perspective to increase those anytime soon. And what also called my attention was also the timing of this shifting on stronger policies just after the visit of Putin on China. Do you think that all those among those agreements that were signed there, do you think that there are anything that could have put Putin on a more confident position on going slightly strong?
Well, no. That was just that hasn't changed that. I mean, look, these agreements were negotiated well in advance before they sat down. So, it wasn't a matter that Putin had to be reassured of anything. It was just, this is more formalizing what the reality of the relationship between Russia and China. That's the key. That it is now this was done more to show the world about the nature of the relationship between Russia and China. Quite a contrast between what the world saw when Donald Trump was there. Trump just, he got a T-shirt. That was about it.
A lousy one.
Yeah. Well, with the China, all I got was this lousy T-shirt.
That meme was amazing. Whoever did that was fantastic.
Yeah, it was hilarious.
Yeah, but still on that, one thing that just came to my mind, do you think that by chance also could have happened a certain pressure from China to say, just get this thing done. You're taking too long. Just get this thing done. Get over with it.
Well,
we need normalizations. I would, stability.
Well, they're not going to get that because, look, Russia and China are creating a new world economic and political order. The West is not going to surrender that easily. The West is going to try to fight back if they can to block it. But it has an inevitable momentum of its own. So this is going to continue moving forward, where the United States, the dominance of the United States today is going to be less in 6 months and less in a year, and it's on the decline. It's not on the increase.
Yeah, let's as usual. Let's keep a very close eye on that. Larry, for a last question, I've seen recently that Israel is pumping more gasoline on the conflict with Iran.
Oh yeah,
we've been watching Trump saying, yeah, we're close to an agreement, and then we are not close to an agreement. Usual Trump. But just Smotrich the other day just said that, yeah, let's get Lebanon done.
Right.
Let's just destroy Lebanon. What do you think it's going to happen in the next weeks or from now on, again with the Iranian crisis for the United States?
No, this we're gonna be back into a full-scale war, probably by this weekend. I would anticipate. There's not going to be a peace deal between the United States and Iran. It's going to fall apart. It'll fall apart in part because of pressure from the Zionist groups, but it also fall apart from just internal political pressures in the United States, not willing to accept the Islamic Republic of Iran as a legitimate country.
Yeah, so let's also keep an eye on that.
Yeah.
Larry, I really planned for a quick show today, so this is more or less all I have. I would like to, congratulate or send my regards to everyone for Memorial Day. That was yesterday, right? It was
yes.
A holiday for the United States. And yeah, go ahead.
No, I just say we're coming off of a 3-day holiday. Now it's back to work. Let's remember that in Saudi Arabia, the Hajj is underway. The Eid, I think, is tomorrow, Wednesday into Thursday. So I think once Eid is out of the way, you're going to see a significant escalation in the military operations in the Persian Gulf.
Yeah. Let's keep, as usual, in the middle of the week, so I will only have the opportunity to talk about this with you next week.
Well, if something happens and you need to get in touch, we can always try to do something else too.
That's right. If something big happens. So, Larry, thank you very much once again for this fantastic conversation on Taco Tuesday.
Yeah, Taco Tuesday.